existing park along one edge, which was about 8 acres, and it was reconstructed on top of an underground garage built in 1953. So that's what that park looked like. The original plans anticipated attaching the new park, Millennium Park, which was going to be 16 acres at the time, to the smaller park. And that would have been a pretty big garage that was shored up with wood timbers. It was not a good idea to, for political reasons, to build a new park and then come back right after that was finished and then have to disrupt the whole city again to fix that one park. This is the site of Millennium Park, and there's an urban legend that the mayor, I'm pointing to the dentist of the mayor, he's right in that window, and the mayor would have to come here, presuming he was practicing good dental hygiene, every 6 months, and he had to look over this site. He was just appalled by what it was doing to Chicago in terms of a blockage to get into the rest of Grant Park, but also just an ugly site. There were many proposals over the years to build a new music pavilion where the parking lot is. They all failed, largely because the railroad said, yeah, we'll sell you the site for millions of dollars, and by the way, the air rights over here, over our train tracks, we'll sell you those too. So they all failed, probably because of lack of political will, but also because of the cost involved. So the mayor said, we've got to figure out how to get control of the site. So he had the attorneys at the city look into it, and they found out they actually owned all the land. Fee simple. They owned the land under the tracks too, only in the section of Grant Park. It's the way that it was dedicated. So the railroads could be there in perpetuity if they were using for railroad purposes. And of course, parking lot is not a railroad purpose. So the city prepared a lawsuit, filed it. The railroad quickly backed off and said, you can have it. Although they've been operating that parking lot for about 15 years. So the plan was to build a new 16-acre park on top of a new garage, the Millennium Garage, which was purported to generate about $125 million in bonding capacity to do construction of the garage and construction of the park. They were going to attach that older park I mentioned on top of that existing underground garage. Well, there were a lot of problems with that plan. And this was done by Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, one of the big architectural firms in Chicago, New York, and San Francisco. They, unfortunately, aren't park planners. So there were a lot of problems with this. Mainly, it wasn't accessible totally to people with disabilities. Like this view shows an overlook that you can only get to if you're able-bodied. And there's a law in the United States called the American Disabilities Act, which pretty much said if you built this, you would be sued. So it was at this point the mayor called me to his office. I was at the Park District for 25 years, and I was going to go into the private sector because they offered an early pension buyout. So he found out about, he called me and he said, Ed, I'd like you to consider doing this project for me. It's only going to take 2 years. This is, of course, 10 and a half years later now. I'm still working on it. And because that's what the architects told them. They said it would be done, we could get this done by the millennium. So the first thing I did, I told the mayor, well, the millennium is really 2001. Like all, you know, the correct date for the millennium. That only bought us a year, though. And so my job was to sort of reconfigure the park and make it accessible, still sort of going with the Beaux-Arts stuff. And I got to sort of rethink the plan, still sort of the formal outline with the SOM. I was telling them what to do. They weren't really happy about it. And we started construction while we were still doing the plan. This is this is a little later, but you can see we decided to demolish that old garage and rebuild it. That, of course, added a lot of cost to the project. And certainly added a lot of area, which added to cost. And the difficulty of building over the railroad tracks was a lot more complicated than the architects and engineers originally thought, because we had to keep it in operation while 40,000 commuters were coming and going every day. So you had to be very careful you didn't drop any beams on the trains. And So the original budget was announced to the press, the $125 million, and also that was going to be done in a year and a half. And of course, when we did this project, then the press said, what's going on here? How can, the mayor, another boondoggle, a project out of control? We were attacked by the press relentlessly for the entire construction period, about 5.5 years. And they just love to attack the mayor. They still love to attack the mayor, actually. Whenever they get a chance, they like to embarrass him. But this was a very dark period for the project. John Bryan had a more difficult time raising money because people didn't necessarily want to commit $1 million to a project that was a boondoggle, as the press said. We were attacked by everyone. So we had a hard time finishing the project. And as I said, it wasn't designed. So as we went along, we start adding things to the project that certainly increased the cost, but the funding was coming from another source. It wasn't coming from tax dollars. So the Harris Theater for Music and Dance was one of the first things we added. It's an underground theater. This is the entry point. Now you can say that that's a building. And it was considered to probably be a violation of those early court decisions, the Montgomery Ward decrees, they're called. So the not-for-profit that was building this, the Chicago Theater for Music and Dance, decided they would get a friendly lawsuit initiated to actually sue themselves and the city of Chicago to call the question of whether this could be built or not. And but previous to getting the lawsuit filed, we went around to all the property owners across from the park and had them sign a consent form saying they had no objection to this project going forward. And we also depressed the theater, made it underground. It's covered with landscape. The only thing that shows is this entry pavilion. And because of that, the judge ruled in the favor of the city, and then they could go forward and not have to worry about getting an injunction to stop construction and have all their donors get upset. The theater is year-round. It has 1,500 seats. The acoustics are quite wonderful. And the deal with the city was, and the mayor never believed this would happen, but I was persistent in trying to get him to sign on to the benefits of having the theater as part of the project. The pavilion, which was about $15 million at their cost, and we would share the space because they only operate for 9 months. So in the summer, their founding members go on tour. It would bring people to the park in the evening and on the weekends during the winter, and I think parks are safe that have people, and it also helped the bottom line for the garage revenue. So there were a lot of benefits for it. I think the mayor liked the garage revenue part the best. And it has 12 founding members, including the Muntu Dance Theater, the Mexican Fine Arts Center Museum, Music the Broke, the Joffrey Ballet, Hubbard Street Dance. None of those artistic groups call it their home. They can come there, perform for whatever period of time they contract for. It's not their permanent theater. And it's grown so much that there are 30 artistic groups that perform there now. They do over 170 performances over the course of the 9 months that they're there. And then the city takes it over in the summer and usually has free programming. Now this is for fee when you go to a concert here. So the Harris Theater tucks underneath the Pritzker Pavilion. You can see the two. The red line is the separation acoustically and legally from the Pritzker Pavilion. They own the building in the center of Millennium Park, and they don't own the top. They own the building, and they sit on a ground lease that the city owns.